Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin. Alan Ruff and Hugh McDonald are here with me on this Thursday. It's great to have your company. Hit the subscribe button, join the football family, and you'll get uncensored, unbiased, unmatched coverage, not only of the Football Show, but so many other features that we have on our YouTube channel. And if you download the app, it's all at your fingertips, all the breaking football news. We've got a competition as well. Kerry has the details.
We have another superb competition here at PLZ Soccer. You can win one of our very own Maestro tops from the PLZ Soccer shop, along with a poster of Celtic legend Danny McGrain or Rangers legend David Cooper. All you have to do is answer this simple question: which year did Scotland last qualify for a World Cup? Post your answer in the comment section below, and when we pick our winner, we'll contact you to find out which poster you would like and which colour of Maestro top you would like to wear. And don't forget to double your chances of winning. Hit the like and hit the subscribe button and join us on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with the competition. It runs all the way through till the Sunday, and then we'll announce the winner on the Monday, and there's lots of competition winners delighted with their prizes. We always have a quiz question, and I thought with the only goal scorer in the Real Madrid-Liverpool game last night, we'd ask you a little bit about Karim Benzema. From which club did Real Madrid sign Karim Benzema? And I can remember it because I was there watching him as a boy. He was a young guy, playing in a game against Rangers at Ibrox, Ruffy, as well. So don't bother guessing and telling everybody, because
I think we were at the away fixture as well, Peter.
The two of us were indeed at the away fixture.
Somebody on our show was at the home one, playing in the game. That's been in their studio.
Okay, there you are. Well, that helps nobody, but nevertheless, if you think you know the answer, fire it out there. Thank you to so many of you who are taking part in the competition and hitting the subscribe button as well. So have a wee guess at the quiz and we'll give you the answer at the end of the programme. Lots to talk about. Of course, we will talk about Champions League. We might also get down to Kyle Fox, who is a lady who withdrew the offer for Rangers that she put in from KRF Capital. What about the Japan boss's comments? Hajime Moriyasu criticising the standard of the Scottish Premiership. Hearts fans unhappy with that change to the time of the Edinburgh Derby. And Xander Murray, who plays for Bonnyrigg Rose, is a footballer who's come out, but reckons he will have quite a few others who will want to come out as openly gay, but he reckons there needs to be a crackdown on homophobic abuse in this country. Is it something that we really need to try and make every effort to accelerate and increase the education of people who decide to abuse people for their sexuality, their colour, their religion? It's all in that mix that show racism the red card. They have many people going out trying to educate the kids at grassroots level, but so often, Hugh, sometimes the parents need a course in it.
Quite, and if Xander's talking about it, it's obviously he's talking through personal experience as well. But yeah, you just got to get rid. Hopefully, as generations change, I certainly know that you know, when I'm talking to football fans and the fans that I go about with, and when I go around lots of grounds in Scotland at all levels, it's a matter of complete indifference what sexuality the players are. I mean, I think it's, you know, largely, I mean, I know it's still there, the homophobia, I do know it's still there, but I think largely for the punter at large, it's just saying, what's the matter, you know, because it doesn't.
Yeah, I don't think listen, there are many areas within the conduct of football fans that I think we need to address, and I wouldn't even like to, I don't think there's any point in trying to quantify the level of importance of each one. No, you know, because at the end of the day, I think, you know, somewhere along the line, sectarianism, problem, if racism, you're the victim, problem.
It's all about being the victim, and if you're the victim, it doesn't matter if you're the victim of homophobia or sectarianism or racism, you're still a victim and it's still going to hurt. So we've got to, but the whole thing has got one solution, you know, and that's education. As soon as people are educated and properly brought up, the whole thing disappears, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you can give us your thoughts on that. Many topics that you want to give us your thoughts on. Of course, at the weekend, all the games on the Saturday. Motherwell against Rangers is the early kick-off. And of course, here's all the games that you might want to have a view on. Give us your thoughts on it. Motherwell Rangers, then Aberdeen against Hearts is a cracker. That could be viewed as maybe the battle for third. Can Aberdeen reignite the fight for that? Celtic against Hibs, Dundee United St Mirren, Kilmarnock St Johnstone, and Livingston against Ross County. So that's what's on offer over the weekend. You can give us your thoughts on that. Rangers will be hoping that they can get more and more people back. One player who won't be playing in that game at the weekend is Borna Barisic. His wife is having a baby, and of course I think the club fully understanding of that, so he will not be involved. But Yilmaz and Tillman could be back from injury, which gives Michael Beale's side, more options. So we sent Kerry Pollock out there today to find out what the Rangers manager had to say.
Here at the Rangers Training Centre this afternoon, Michael Beale spoke ahead of his side's game against Motherwell this weekend. However, this week the headlines have been surrounding Alfredo Morelos and whether he'll continue life here at Rangers or not. The manager did confirm today that the striker's move to Seville is just rumours.
We spoke obviously after the game on, when was it, Sunday, and there's no truth in that. So I was pretty cool about it beforehand anyway, because we have such a strong relationship, and we're both committed to each other until the end of the season, and we'll sit down and have a chat then. And if Alfredo's here and offered a new contract, great. If he moves on, then he's our record goal scorer in Europe. We've had a lot of big days together, and he'll get a hug and on he goes. But at this moment in time, we're just focused on the games ahead. There's no truth in the situation with Seville.
As of late, the Colombian striker has been criticised for having a bad attitude during games so far this season, but Michael Beale says from his point of view there's no issues with the Rangers goal scorer.
I've got to be honest, since I've come back in, Alfredo's been fantastic in all aspects. There's not been any issues whatsoever. I think sometimes people try to force and find one. I think I said last week he scored 7 goals and 5 assists in the time I've been here, and he hasn't played every game. For example, he didn't play the 3 last week, and there was a couple of other games he hasn't played in. So if you look at his goal contribution per game, I think he's probably 1-to-1. So
yeah, how do you think, if it is indeed the end of his time at Rangers, how do you think people will look back on Alfredo Morelos?
All depends with time passing. I think if you look at certainly Rangers fans I've spoken to, they just think it's best that the whole thing just is ended as quickly as possible. But I think if people looking back on him will look at him as a very sort of mercurial character, they'll look at what he did in Europe, where he had some absolutely sensational displays in Europe, where his ability to hold, not just his goal scoring, which was impressive in Europe, and Michael Beale referenced it there, but his ability to bring the team up the park, the ability to bully defences. I think people look back really fondly on him. But I think at the moment, it's this thing with football clubs, I think with fans quite properly, they're just involved in the now. They want to know where they're going. And I think largely patience has run out. I think the best thing for all parties is to split up. I'm sort of I kind of like a wee bit perplexed with Michael Beale there, because he's talking up Morelos to the high heavens, but last week he was kind of seeming to be talking him down a wee bit, just saying that. So you don't know what's really going on there, and the idea that the first talks about his future will be at the end of in the summer. That suggests to me, if you're wanting to keep a player, surely, you'd be talking to him now. Yeah,
I think he's off. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind, Ruffy, that he's off. But when you look back at his overall contribution to Rangers, yes, the European figures are there. You can't argue with him. He's scored some good goals and scored more than anybody else in the European campaigns. This year, 10 goals. Last year, 18 goals. The year before, 17 goals. So he's chipped in with his fair few. He can annoy people at times. Sometimes he's had a weight problem. Sometimes he's had a disciplinary problem.
It's just, as you said, it depends what ones you want to remember. Do you want to remember the good times, or do you want to remember the bad times? Because there's an equal amount of both. He has let the club down on numerous occasions, getting sent off. But put that against, as you say, I thought in Europe he was excellent. I thought he was really good, and that's why there was at that time supposedly a lot of top clubs after him, and we were up talking about 15 million or whatever, you know, fee we want to put on him at that time. But no, I think the Rangers fans have, like Hugh said, want to move on. They want somebody who's going to be there for maybe 2-3 years, and they will need to go out and get somebody if they lose him, and it's going to cost money.
Yeah, Tony says a decent player but a terrible attitude. Gallant says Morelos blows hot and cold, not what's needed at Ibrox. When he does go, they're going to have to find somebody who's got the qualities that I think might be the contrast of what Čolak offers. It might need to be.
The big problem is if under a normal regime, if Morelos went out, they could say, well, we've got 2 strikers in Čolak and Roof. You know, why do we need another? We've got 2 that can play number 9. But the question mark over Roof is huge because his injuries. God bless the laddie, but his injuries, he just, you know, he's in and out, in and out, and out. So they really need a striker. I think they need a top class one because I think Čolak more than able to do it in the SPFL. I just question his ability at the highest level. And if Rangers want to really compete in the highest level in Europe, I think they need a better centre forward. But that costs extraordinary money, you know. And you just say, well, where are Rangers going to get it from? Normally you'd say, well, we'll use the Morelos and Kent fees, and there's going to be no fees.
Yeah.
There's going to be no fees. So where do you get a massive amount of money to invest in a striker?
Yeah, well, for the here and now, Ruffy, he is involved, and Rangers have got to try and finish this season as strongly as possible. So do you see any slip up at Fir Park? They won there, it was a tight game, 2-1 the last time. They had an easier time at home, 3-0.
No, I don't think there'll be any problem. I think obviously Motherwell will give it a good shift. They're at home, they're on a wee bit of a run, but I still think Rangers have got far too much quality in all their different areas. And I think they will win the game, you know, and I think they'll win the game quite comfortably.
Yeah, okay. In a strange sort of way, you look at Rangers games coming up, they've got Motherwell, Dundee United, and then of course the 8th of April is the Celtic game at Celtic Park, which really is the cut-off point where you're saying to yourself, if you're going to make a charge, you're going to have to win in the East End of Glasgow. If you're going to get silverware, you only have to look at the game on the 29th of April. You're going to have to beat Celtic in the semi-final at Hampden. Yeah,
I think 2 Celtic wins, or 2 wins against Celtic rather, you know, just revitalises the whole season for them. I mean, it re-energises it. The downside of that is, say a draw even at Celtic Park and a defeat at Hampden, that kills the season. It's as simple as that. So huge, they're always huge games, there's always something on them anyway. I mean, but yeah, April's going to be the big month that makes the decisions, because let's be frank, whoever wins the Scottish Cup semi-final is going to be so long odds on to win the final. I mean, it's going to be a 1 to 10 job to win the final. So whoever wins between Celtic and Rangers is going to say almost certainly Scottish Cup winners. And Rangers have to do something, and no less than a victory at Celtic Park to keep the title race open. Yeah,
of course those 2 semi-finals, in fact the 30th of April is Rangers against Celtic. I think that one is a 1:30 kick-off, with Inverness against Falkirk is a 12:15 kick-off the previous day, Ruffy.
Yeah,
what's wrong with you?
Well, we didn't like the back-to-backs the last time. Look at the state of the park. You know, depending on the weather, what you get. I mean, if we get heavy rain, the people on the second day aren't going to get the park in as good quality as the first one. You know, so I'm sure somebody will have some complaints about that, unless the surface has really improved that much. I know they've got the heat lamps and everything, but back-to-back games, it's always, sometimes you can get a bad one.
Yeah, okay, we'll find out about that, because the one thing about, you know, when they said that they'd upgraded the park, it wasn't in good condition. I did not. I looked at that final.
Big question mark over it.
I thought it affected the pace of the ball, the way it was played.
In fact, the way the whole game was played, because both sides were trying to zip the ball about, particularly Celtic, because that's Celtic, and it was sticky. It wasn't, the bounce wasn't true either.
Players were slipping.
Players were slipping. Another thing as well is the 12:15 kick-off for Inverness fans. they can as well start now. They start their journeys now.
Yeah.
I mean, what time you have to leave even in for this public? I say there'll be buses going, there'll be people come down in their cars, but I mean, to come down by train.
It's 3 hours.
Just 3 hours. So you go in between. You're talking 7 o'clock kick-off for heading for the house to a semi-final. I'll not bother them because it's a Scottish Cup semi-final, but listen, we always go back to it. It's the golden rule. Them that has the gold makes the rules.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's television's decided this is when we want the games, and you just got to suck it up.
You've got to get on with it, absolutely. Of course, the opponents for Rangers at the weekend, Motherwell, Fir Park. This is a side on an unbeaten run at the moment since Stuart Kettlewell took charge. He's also got a man who's in contention for the number 1 jersey as the Scotland goalkeeper, Liam Kelly, in contention with Angus Gunn and Zander Clark. Who gets the nod for you? Well, if it is Kelly, his manager thinks he'll be able to step up to the plate and he won't let Scotland down.
I have absolutely no doubt or hesitation that he would acquit himself really, really well. Didn't know Liam particularly well at all before coming to the football club, but everything that I've seen of him in terms of his performance, how he handles himself as a captain but as a professional, is first class. So from my point of view, I think he'd be the type of lad that would relish that opportunity.
He's made some good saves, Ruffy. I think he's a good goalkeeper.
Yeah, I think he's done particularly well, particularly for Motherwell. You know, I think in large parts of games they're playing in, he's made that match-winning save, you know, and he has made some incredible ones. I just think he's just went off the boil a wee bit. You know, I think Zander Clark would be in front of him if it was me. We've already spoken with the boy Gunn. I don't know enough about him. You can say, yeah, he's probably playing in a better league, but I think they'll have to judge that in the week's training that they have together, and you can assess them then. But I don't think any of the three of them would let you down. It's an unknown quantity, isn't it? None of them are getting.
You've always been a big Zander Clark.
Yeah, and Zander Clark.
I remember when he was not in it, you were going to march in Hampden with a placard.
That's right. I was saying he should have been in at least the third goalkeeper when we had the 2 good ones. But no, I think his form's been very good, and I think since he's taken over for Craig Gordon, some of the saves he's made has been Craig Gordon-ish. You know, wonderful saves. You know, so no, I would actually give him a chance before Gunn.
Yeah, I don't know if you missed it, Hugh. He did actually march on Hampden, but it was at 9:30 at night, and nobody could see the placard. No. It was just a recurring theme with Ruffy at the moment, you know.
Finally coming through.
Yeah, how to shut him up. Yeah,
it just drifted through his consciousness.
Just throwing a grenade.
A delayed reaction grenade.
Memories there. That's good.
Everybody's a right to protest.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. There you are. That'll be on your Twitter if you knew what Twitter was. As far as Motherwell, I was speaking to Stuart Kettlewell. I did ask him about this alarming statistic. Do you think it's an alarming statistic on the young players that are not getting the chance from 21 and under? You know, in almost half of the Premier League clubs having 0 or 1 person young player out there. Have we got a problem that needs to be addressed? The reason I mentioned this to you, Hugh, is we highlighted earlier in the season how many Scottish players were actually getting in as a starting 11.
Yeah, I think it's a problem if you're looking at the good of Scottish football as a whole, bringing through players. But I think it's a very understandable one, because you don't want... It's such a brutal league. It's a brutal league in terms of nobody from top to bottom has any room for manoeuvre. None. There's never any, and there's never a period in the season where you could say, right, I can blood some people. I mean, look at even now, before the split, you know, we're in March. What team can actually say, do you know what, we've got nothing much to play for, let's throw in a couple of youngsters? Not one of them.
Well, can I ask you this question? Is it because we should stop looking at this league in a negative situation? I think a lot of journalists look at it and say, well, wait a minute, it's too cutthroat. You've got 7 or 8 teams trying to avoid relegation.
Yep.
Whereas if Neil Doncaster was sitting here, and he would turn around and say, well, hold on a minute, this is really competitive.
Yep.
Everybody loves the playoffs. It's a really competitive league. So what? 8 teams are trying to avoid it. That's what it's about.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of sympathy for that point of view. And what I'm saying is more not a criticism of the league that everybody's got anything to play with, but an observation that if everybody's got something to play with, they're not going to take risks.
Yeah.
They're not going to take risks. You're not going to say Jim Goodwin's going to say, imagine somebody knocking at Jim Goodwin's once, boy, there's a boy in under 18s that's absolutely terrific, Jim. You'd be looking at him and say, what? I mean, Barry Robson, he's got somebody to play for Hearts, I'm not sure a third. Celtic and Rangers we know about. You know, even David Martindale at Livingston trying to claw and stay in a top 6 place. We said to him, you know, we've got a couple of great 17-year-olds. What's got to happen is that you would have to have absolute prodigies that can come through. And even then it's tough for them to come into the team. It's just a matter of what the league is. I think if you stretch the league to 18, which is never going to happen, then you get a bit of wiggle room to bring kids in. But you're not going to bring kids into this league.
Yeah.
Just not.
Of course, the other thing, Ruffy, and you can comment on this comment from Stuart Kettlewell this morning. He said he's got to think about, yes, we all have a responsibility to do it, but managers want to keep their jobs.
Something I've been a huge believer in, coming through an academy at Queen's Park where that promotion of young players is your fundamental. That's what happens. That's what you have to look to do. I've seen the stats myself, and I would love to in some way see if either myself as a manager, but Motherwell as a football club can try and redress that in some way, even if it's for a small part. But as you well know, there's so much pressure on managers. But I think when you've got those talented players that you believe in, I personally don't think it's a difficult decision to make.
No,
they have to be outstanding. They have to be really outstanding, you know, because the coaches see the kids coming through the academies for their 13, 14, 15, 16. And if they're really, really good enough, they'll get a chance. But for me, I think my problem is I don't think the clubs have got any money now. So they've not got any money, so they just go and get somebody on loan. You get into England and bring somebody up for the second division, or they go somewhere else. So there's loans all over the place. I would restrict the loan thing and give younger players a chance, because if you're not bringing people up on loan or having 4 or 5 loan players at every club, then maybe one young kid would get a chance.
There is an unnatural situation that we find ourselves in here as well, which has really gathered pace over the last couple of years, Hugh, which is quite simply a lot of the younger players who are 15 and 16 have been snapped up and taken down south. So you're then dropping a standard of what's coming through again.
Yep, and not just outside, to Bayern Munich and others in Germany. We know the standard one at Ben Doak at Liverpool. So yeah, there's an open season on the really top value ones. But I mean, Stuart Kettlewell's sitting there and talking away, and you just see him. The proof is in his presence at a Motherwell press conference. He's the third manager at Motherwell this season. I mean, that tells you what the attrition rate is.
Yes.
That tells you. I mean, you've got other wee stories that you know, Jim Goodwin managing 2 clubs in the one season. I mean, that tells you how brutal the Scottish game is, and how, and all this cliche about fine margins and things, it is, and it's all about, if you don't get it right, or at least stabilise a club and keep them up, the penalties are huge. I mean, any club that's going down into this championship, you're talking about threats to jobs, you're talking about threats to not just budgets in the short term, but in the long term. It's cutthroat stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you can give us your thoughts on that. It's certainly a hot topic, and lots of people have their opinion on it. It's good to hear what you've got to say about the standard of players coming through. Young players, are they good enough? Have we got enough of them? Should we address that? I know Tam McManus is on the SFA coaching schools, and he has highlighted a number of really good players, talented players. But again, as soon as they show a modicum of talent, you've got English agents and clubs sniffing around them to steal them away from us before we get to that magical 100 or 150 games in the Scottish Premiership. Give us your thoughts on that. Celtic take on Hibs at the weekend. It's hard to believe, but you know, Tam was talking about it in his column this morning in the Daily Record. 2010, January of that year, is the last time Hibs they were able to come to Celtic Park and win. Danny Galbraith scoring in a 2-1 win. That's a long time, Ruffy.
Yeah, I think I'll be waiting a wee while longer as well. You know, I know they've got their act together a wee bit, you know, but they're still miles away from Celtic, and particularly at home. You know, Celtic will just keep roller coasting over everybody. Again, they'll probably have a large percentage of the possession in that game. You know, and I don't know what Hibs do. Do they sit in, and try and hit them on the break, or I don't know, because Celtic are just firing in all cylinders.
Yeah, I've never been hit or rolled over by a roller coaster. What's it like? Is it really bad?
It's a nightmare if you fall off one up the top.
Yeah, absolutely. I just thought I'd get your insight into it, just for Hugh, since he's getting ready for Disney World, just in case you're on a roller coaster. Talking of, we were talking about it yesterday as well. There's always this intrigue and mystery when some players are left out. Greg Taylor, was carrying an injury.
So obviously, I mean, carrying an injury.
Why couldn't Steve Clarke just say yesterday, he's carrying an injury, we had an agreement with Celtic, we'd take him out of the equation?
But I think sometimes that managers don't want to talk about injuries and players that are not their players. Because I know of one occasion where a manager in charge of the national team says he's not in because he's got a long-term injury. And the club weren't pleased about him revealing this injury.
But just say an injury, Hugh.
I would.
From the old days? Well, he's out, he's injured.
Well, half the time in the old days, everybody was out with injuries and they weren't injured, as Ruffy will tell you. Although he wasn't one. No, fair to him.
You don't get 53 caps by saying I'm not playing.
No, he wasn't, but there was in fact, a lot of managers used to tell players, you've got a hamstring. No, I've not. You haven't. You're not going up the road, especially for England. Yeah, it was a very mysterious way it was all came out, but obviously it's been revealed.
Yeah,
Greg's got an injury and that's it.
And of course, Cameron Carter-Vickers, he's also got an injury, so he's withdrawn from the USA squad. I think sometimes a bonus though when you get certain players that don't have to travel, 4 and 5 hour flights.
Well, that's a chat, isn't it, between the manager and the players, and you would like to think you'd have a good relationship with the country manager as well, and you have a phone call and just say, this is a position, but I think Stevie Clarke was probably upset because he probably wanted them just to have him in the squad and have a look at and then assess it. But I think Celtic will probably rule the roost in that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at the table, Ruffy, and Hibs, they're up against it to win, as you say, against Celtic. But of course, Aberdeen take on Hearts, and this could be that last chance, or will there be more opportunities for them to try and push for third? I think if Hearts were to win this one at Pittodrie, it would really kind of kill off any hopes. I think Hearts would cement their place in third.
Yeah, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago Hearts were flying and were a definite third, but they've had bad results in between, not convincing results. I know Shanklin's not been playing, so the people underneath them, the Aberdeens and the Hibs, will say, look, there's a wee chance here, if we go on a wee run here, we could get third. So we'll have to keep our eye on that one, because I think Aberdeen at home will fancy to take something out of that game.
Yeah, and the other thing about it, Hugh, which a lot of people, I was reading about it yesterday, I think it was, is because of the nature of the draw for the Scottish Cup semi-finals, you're suddenly in a situation, if Celtic or Rangers win it, then the benefit is European football goes down onto the league position.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Hearts will finish third. I agree with Alan that they've had a sticky patch lately, and I don't think they'll get. I don't think they'll win at Pittodrie either. But I think they'll have enough. I think they've got enough going forward to be the third best team. But there is a sort of one thing about the cup draw is that everybody presumably sponsors etc. would want a Celtic Rangers final, but it has good news for 3 divisions. It has good news for the Premiership, where you can European. It's good news for the First Division, where a First Division club has got a realistic chance of going to Hampden for a Scottish Cup final. And there's good news for League 2, because the club in there that's got a realistic chance of going to the Scottish Cup as well.
Yeah, and I look at that league table, and from Livingston, I think realistically upwards, everyone's got a chance of European football.
Yep.
Now that, for me, is Neil Doncaster saying, wait a minute, come on, it's all alive at every level.
But I would agree totally, but that's the point I make. I think, but that's got a double-edged sword. It's alive at every level, so how can you take a chance? I mean, you can't have it both ways. You can't have a competition that's completely, every game is crucial, and then saying, why are you not putting 17-year-olds in?
Yeah.
Because unless the 17-year-old is a potential Champions League player, You're not going to put him in at 17.
Yeah, but the problem now is we've got, and not that I reacted to it, as soon as I read the Japan boss, Hajime Moriyasu, questioning the level of the league, I just thought, oh, well, I'm just going to dismiss that, because if you're picking Maeda, but you're not picking the other two, it's just because you've got other people that you fancy.
Yeah.
You know, don't have a slight. I think it's bang out of order for an international manager to question the level of a league.
Yeah, and I think if you look, I mean, I looked at his comments online a bit more closely, and he wasn't slaughtering the league as a way, you know, some outrage commentators thought. He questioned the league, which I think is fair enough to question it. But yeah, the whole problem, I've watched Japan, I watched them twice in the World Cup, and talked to Japanese supporters over in the World Cup and say, what's your insight in this? Why would Hatate and Kyogo not come? And they say, well, watch your midfield tonight, it's good, and you know, Hatate's a great player, blah, blah, blah. And Kyogo's probably not a player that the manager really needs, because he goes beyond and he makes runs, and there's a different way in Japan played. But also I thought I read an interesting suggestion from a Japanese football expert who said that Kyogo and Hatate don't go on with the manager, and the manager doesn't go on with them.
Suddenly
go, right, that makes a big...
So there's layers to this story.
There may be layers. I mean, it's like everything else, so there'll be layers to the story, maybe. Yeah, on the basis of Maeda's got his own certain worth, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Nobody can say he's a better player than Kyogo, in my mind. Nobody can say he's a better player than Kyogo or Hatate. But is he a useful player? Of course he is, because by the way, he's a certain starter for Postecoglou.
Yes.
He's always a starter for Postecoglou.
And he's a grafter.
And he's a starter, or at least somebody that comes on for the Japanese manager. And he ran in the World Cup, he ran his socks off against Jeremy for 65 minutes, and you knew he was, you know, that's what the manager was out. But there's so many layers to managers' decisions. I don't think it's completely about the standard of the league.
Yeah, okay. There's 3 games that I think are well worthy of our consideration, Ruffy, at the bottom end, because they all have implications. Livingston against Ross County, and I know Livingston will be looking up the way, but certainly speaking to David Martindale, he doesn't want to be looking down the way and suddenly getting dragged towards the bottom end of the table. So Kerry Pollock was out there to speak to the Livy boss today.
Here at Livingston this morning, the discussions were less on Ross County at the weekend and more on the future of club captain Nicky Devlin. David Martindale says the likelihood of his captain being here next season is very low. However, he admits he's done everything in his power to keep him here at the club.
Nicky's been captain of the club 4 years now, I think that's Nicky been here. He's been incredible for me. And you know what? Good luck to him. Good luck to him. That's why players come to the club. So I've got huge admiration, huge respect for Nicky. Love to keep him at the club, but I'm realistic to know I can't keep him at the club. He needs to go and try and get better finances for him and his family. I'm more than happy. We get to a stage in the relationship where I've done everything I possibly can, but do you know what? I understand the rationale behind it.
But before he makes his final decision, Nicky Devlin has a few things he wants to tick off here at the West Lothian club before saying his farewells.
Just now, I want to be in the top 6, to be honest with you. I want to finish as high up as we can. I want to be the captain of the club that takes the club back to European football. That's what I want to do. So right now, that's my only concern, and getting up at 6:30 in the morning with me, man. He kind of takes up most of my thought process right now.
Yeah, young family, good guy Nicky, and I think a good player, and it's probably his last big move, if there is a move in Scotland that he's worthy of. I mean, I look at him and I think, you know, he wouldn't look out of place in an Aberdeen team.
No, I think he could go to any of the Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen quite easily. I think he's had a tremendous season. Consistency level, he's always the main man. He's always there or thereabouts in the Livingston side. He's always in about the 18-yard box. Not a Tavernier, but he's up there, you know, and he's putting quality balls into the box for the strikers. So no, I think there'll be, if there's no clubs up here, there'll be clubs down south definitely noticed what he's doing. I agree. Good character as well, Peter. A good character. And if I'm looking at a dressing room that really needs revitalised, and I think Aberdeen would fall into that category, but other clubs would as well. Yeah, I would be having a serious look at them.
Yeah, and in this game, I think Livingston still have realistic aspirations of getting a European spot on it, but For Ross County, Ruffy, before it hits the split, they've got Celtic, St Johnstone, Aberdeen and Hearts. So I'm looking there and I'm thinking to myself, points could be, tough to come by.
Tough, I think, in the away games. He's got to be looking at not losing the games, and whatever ones he's got at home, 3 points, and that's the only thing that's going to take them away from everything else. And it'll be interesting to see. There'll be some team down there will string 2 or 3 results together, and that'll take them out of the pressure pot.
Yeah, okay. You're talking about managers sometimes speak with a forked tongues, especially when they're talking about a game that you're at and you think, I've watched a different game. But sometimes they're fairly honest. And Jim Goodwin has certainly been honest in his appraisal of certain players and why they're not in there. Ryan Edwards dropped from the team, just basically said his performances haven't been good enough.
No, they haven't, and unfortunately in the run, he's been their main defender back there, and he hasn't produced the form that we know he can. He's a big captain, he's a big leader, he's the kind of defender that you want in the team. But everybody goes through a bad spell, and quite rightly, he's taken him out of the equation. I think the good thing about it is he's actually had a chat with him. Sometimes managers just pull you out and don't have a word, but he's had a chat with him, and I think the boy realises that he will come back into the team maybe when his confidence is a wee bit better.
And there's no point in talking to Jim Goodwin about how he wants his side to play. He just wants the side to survive.
There's no time now for me to bed in a real football philosophy. That's pre-season, that's what that's all about. I've got 10 games to get as much points on the board as possible to ensure that we survive, and for me it's about working as hard as possible on the training pitch.
Well, he's learned his lesson. He's not telling anybody he'll solve the defensive problems or anything.
I always remember when we talked about this, and when Stendhal came in at Hearts and talking about the gegenpress and how he's going to get players playing a different way, and you go, no, this is Christmas. You're at the bottom of the league or thereabouts. Wait till the summer before you start the revolution. let's just if it means it's 4-1, 4-1 or 4-2-3, but just play a system that gets you points, and then in the pre-season you can rewire. And of course he didn't. Hearts, almost imploded, and the last result was, I think it was a defeat at St Mirren. The league was called, and Hearts were out of the league.
Yeah, Kilmarnock against St Johnstone is going to be an interesting one as well at the weekend. Don't forget, Tam McManus and myself usually do the Saturday show, but Tam's got a big day out, so the Bulgins come off the bench again Saturday.
No way.
Saturday, and usually Tam and I are battering off each other, a bit of patter and everything, and of course Ruffy and I are resuming our old role on the Saturday afternoon.
Back to Saturday, what about a shift and a half on a Saturday as well?
Yeah.
No, as soon as I knew, I didn't want to let the company down, so I just told the page out the diary and I said, I'll be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, by the way,
I wouldn't expect any less,
Well, absolutely. That's the kind of commitment Ruffy's showing in his 10th year now. And of course, the difference between year one when we started was year one, it was all hands to the pump, and then slowly but surely now it's 5 holidays within the year, Hugh. He's got to get his 5 holidays.
Yeah, we haven't been in a tennis holiday yet.
No, you're not. There's partly good ones in Algarve.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You really should. So Ruffy's with me on Saturday, and we'll be having a ding-dong battle with each other, and of course bringing you half-time, full-time results from all our reporters at all the grounds, and we'll get the managers and players' reaction as well. I've got to talk about Champions League. It's something that we've been looking...
Before we go further, obviously, Hugh never got the email about the morning of red today.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, to be fair, I actually thought last night, Hugh, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to watch Real Madrid against Liverpool, because obviously I was there at Anfield and thoroughly enjoyed the first leg, thoroughly enjoyed Real Madrid, to be honest with you. It was difficult to watch seeing Liverpool get battered. And I actually thought to myself, right, Jurgen Klopp's side, they're going to go out there and they're going to have a right go, and the game was flat.
Aye. I never watched it last night. I sped through the recorded version of it this morning just to have a general idea of what I'd be talking about today, because so I never watched it live. And knowing the result makes it a bit flatter as well, but it was like painting by numbers. I mean, I just think it's when you get a first leg result like that, I don't know what the managers really say to the players. You know, go out and do the best you can, or try and give them a wee fright, or try to win the first half. I mean, I think. Do
you know what he should say?
Ancelotti made a good point. He says, "I don't know what he says. Well, players." He says, because it's, we've never been in such a dominant situation against a top team.
But Klopp, we'll hear from him in a second, but if anything, I think the message must have been, don't go into the Bernabeu and get absolutely hammered, because you've got huge games coming up, and there's a week in April coming up that will define Liverpool's chances of your Champions League football next season. It's as simple as that.
And the chances of Champions League football this season impacts in next season of who they get in the summer.
Yes.
Who do they buy in the summer?
Exactly, and I'm going to ask you about that. But of course, Klopp, his ambition is to be involved in the Champions League, and a little bit more, as you'll find out.
So with the history we have in this competition, I think we start usually in the competition with the idea of winning it, to be honest. So we reached a few times the final, didn't win the final, that's true, that often, but were there anyway 3 times in the last few years. And that's why I really believe in, if you want to win the competition, you have to be outstanding. And we weren't tonight.
Well, as I say, managers see a different game every now and then, Ruffy, but I think he's got a rebuilding job in the summer. And I think it all hinges on, if he can get Jude Bellingham to Liverpool, they've got a chance of rebuilding a good side.
Yeah, but he's got a reasonable track record of bringing in quality players or identifying quality players. Again, I know it's a different scale for Rangers, but how much money is he going to have to play with when you look at Pep and you look at the money that they're throwing about, so I'm sure he will be identifying players that he would want to bring to the club, and obviously Bellingham seems to be one of them, but I think they'll need maybe another couple to go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a strange situation here, because suddenly they're out of it, and I think there's 6 out of the 8 are all previous Champions League winners now in that draw.
I know, it's funny that you talk about 6 out of the 8 always previous Champions League winner, but the team I would love to see it win are not Champions League winners, and that's Napoli. I would love them to win the tournament, just because of the way they play, and because it would give a freshness, and it would also sort of galvanise Serie A, who's not had a great time in that competition in recent years. On Klopp's thing, he's got to really sit down, and I know they're talking to Bellingham's representatives at the moment, as are other clubs, and as are Dortmund. Dortmund still hold out hope that he might sign for another year. I don't think he will, but Dortmund are holding out hope for that. Central to Bellingham, as it was to Haaland, is the Champions League. That's where these kids want to be winning. That's where they want to be playing. And even if you say, Bellingham, you're a teenager, so you're only going to miss one Champions League if you don't go to Liverpool, because you would think that Liverpool will be serial Champions League qualifiers. It's still a big challenge to try and get a guy over the line if you've got no Champions League to give him. But I think Liverpool should make him the priority. I know he played poorly against Chelsea, and there's been a lot of criticism in England about him. But I've seen enough of him in the flesh, I've seen enough of him on television to know that not only is he an excellent technical player, but he's a strong character, and he's a teenager, Peter. He's a young man. If you're getting him, you could have him for a dynasty. You could have him for 10 years at the heart of your midfield. And if you get him, it's a statement as well. You can bring in other players on the back of it. I think it's a really crucial signing for Liverpool.
Yeah, I think, Billy says Bellingham to Man City. Mm-hmm. Man City, Real Madrid, Liverpool, they're all in for him. And I love this. Sometimes people don't actually put their real names in, but I quite like this one on a Thursday night. Sausage Supper says, that's his tagline on.
I thought we were getting that. I'll say that.
Napoli looking a lot like Porto in 2003, 2004. We'd love to see it, but I think, I want to see Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, Aberdeen, Hibs all in big European competitions, but I think over the next decade beyond, unless something happens with the Super League, Ruffy, to give these clubs extra money, we are going to see just the same movie year in, year out now. It's going to become very predictable.
Well, at any time any of our clubs get put in front of the camera after they come out in Europe, the first thing the manager says is money. Can't compete with money. And we're talking about teams like Red Bull, you know, who've got all the money. We're talking about some of the Russian teams who've got all the money, and the Italians, and I know Spain and Italy are financially a wee bit restricted just now, but they've still got more money in their teams.
Yeah.
And if they keep spending the money and buying up the best players, then you're always going to be hitting your head against a brick wall.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I apologise to anybody who doesn't support Celtic or Rangers. I'm not putting an argument that they can't compete. I'm just saying that you want to see other teams win the Champions League. I mean, I'm looking at the previous winners, Hugh, and it's Spain and Germany and England. That is it. I mean, that is it for the last, easily 13, 14 years. I think Inter Milan are the last side out with those three countries.
When was the last time Inter Milan? Was about 6 or 7 years ago. It was Mourinho won it with them, wasn't it?
It's back in 2009, 2010, 2-0 over Bayern Munich. It's a long time ago.
So that's 14, 15 since a Serie A team has won it.
Well, that's what you're up against.
And when you reckon that the Champions League started with a run of victories for Real Madrid, followed by a couple for Benfica, followed by a couple by AC Milan, then Inter, and then Celtic, it shows you, you know the way it's gone. Could you envisage Benfica winning a Champions League? Of course you can't. You can envisage Celtic. You can envisage Steaua Bucharest winning one, Red Star Belgrade. I mean, the whole way it's changed, and they've got a problem here with it, because the only way it can be changed is level playing fields. You're not going to get that. And the only other way is a European League which allows other clubs to access other revenue streams. I think it's coming. I think it'll come. And it's how UEFA, FIFA and the clubs react to that.
I like Ryan Lindsay, who says, how do you know his name isn't Sausage Supper? In this day and age, you can't rule it out. You know, it could be the Supper family just thought, we're going to name him after our favourite meal.
I was with the Hastings brothers the other week there, and they were talking about playing with a guy from Wales called Young, and he said, he wouldn't guess what their mum and dad called him. They called him Di, so his name was Di Young. it's not the most optimistic name that you would call.
Every day's a blessing as you get up there. But yeah, he made a good point, so I thought I'd read it out anyway. The Champions League, I just love to see, you know, Scottish clubs getting a tilt at it, certainly more than one. I think it's great when we've got two in it, because it keeps that interest going. And of course, we always crave them to be involved in the Champions League when you get to January and beyond. It's magical when you actually look at it, but it doesn't happen that often. It's all too rare. Europa League fixtures tonight. Here's how it all looks. And of course, Freiburg, Juventus, Feyenoord, Shakhtar Donetsk, Real Betis, Man United, Fenerbahce, Seville, Ferencváros, Bayer Leverkusen, Real Sociedad, Roma, USG against Union Berlin, and Arsenal against Sporting Lisbon. And of course, Manchester United 4-1 up from the first leg. I think they are looking forward to going into the next round. But of course, no thoughts whatsoever from Erik ten Hag of playing a weakened side.
Very good opponent. Last week we had a good result, but we have to go again, and then you need your best players, because we need a result, we need a win. Then we need our best team.
Nothing's ever certain at the moment with teams in the Premier League anyway. They can lose one week and then, you know, bounce back the next. But certainly Manchester United in a good place. Arsenal against Sporting Lisbon. This could be the team that is in with a chance of winning the Europa League. So they'll get two real opportunities. Win the Europa League, go straight into the Champions League, Hugh, or win the Premier League.
Yeah, and I didn't think they would still be in the hunt for it as late as now. I thought Manchester City, would have flexed their muscles to such an extent that it would be largely over by now, but they haven't. Arsenal still have got that 5-point gap at the top of the league. They've got players coming back as well. Jesus is coming back, and then Arteta's even talking about he was such an important part of the beginning of the season. He said, no, he's got to fight to get back into the team. So things are good for Arsenal. But yes, that's an interesting thing about the Europa League today. Just off the top of my head, you looked at it and I spotted at least 3 Champions League winners in it, and Feyenoord, Manchester United and Juventus. I didn't see the bottom line, and that just shows you what history that competition now holds and what depth it holds as well. It's hugely difficult. I mean, if you talk about Scottish football, you just have to look at Hearts' campaign in Europe this year, and the Istanbul team that they played and were much better than Hearts and really outclassed them. They get cowed 4-1 this week, you know, at home.
And Hearts could have beaten Zurich to stay in the Europa League.
You would have thought they could have. So but it's tough Europe now.
Yeah, absolutely. Just out of curiosity, Kieran, before I get Ruffy's thoughts, we were talking about it. And somebody's brought it up here. I think John mentions it as well. John Mulaney says, what do you think of the expansion of the World Cup? It's getting to the point now where you'd be hard pressed not to make it.
Yeah, I think we'll still manage it though. Well, this is what I think about it, is that there's a lot of chatter goes on about World Cups and World Cup in Qatar. There was a lot of chatter about human rights and playing it in one city and how many teams it is. But here was the bottom line. The bottom line was hidden away in FIFA's figures. FIFA made £5 billion.
Billion?
5 billion, right? From that tournament. So they got something right.
Yeah.
And now what they're going to do is get something right again, because the more teams, the more games, bigger broadcasting, bigger merchandising, bigger attendances. It's not a World Cup in the way that we would ever know it, because it's virtually on. I mean, it goes from Guadalajara in Mexico to Canada.
Canada, yeah.
So I mean, you're talking about. There's nobody can. It's not a World Cup where you can go and say, "Well, I'll go and I'll see much." You'll be in little, but the whole thing's completely changed now.
And I don't know if you spotted, Hugh, but they've now got to a situation where I think they've got 7 countries agreeing to the Club World Cup.
Yes, and that'll be the next one. And that's going to be the next one. When the club World Cup goes up to 16, 32. There's a game within games that's been played at the moment, and the game within games is Infantino is trying to create as much revenue for football so that he can give it to clubs, because he knows clubs in certain leagues, particularly in Spain, but in other leagues as well, are just not having it at the moment. They're looking at England and saying, we can't compete with England, we have to change. So that's the real dynamic. So he's trying to sort of print the money, and they're trying to grab the money, but I don't think he'll be successful. I think at one point the whole model breaks and clubs break away.
You buy into that, Ruffy?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's enough big clubs out there financially struggling, and they have got a lot of power. And if they all get together, I know it failed the last time, but I don't think it was particularly thought out the last time.
It was terribly narrative,
particularly for the big clubs, So I think they'll come back with a better package, and hopefully that our clubs would be part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We need something to happen to give our clubs an incentive, and of course an avenue to make more money and develop the players and let us see a better standard of football. I hate to be dismissive about it, but if you go and watch football elsewhere and see the standard and the quality of technical players that you're looking at, and then you come back at times to Scottish football, it's very, very difficult not to be critical of certain games that you watch.
Absolutely, and again, the whole thing is about, it goes back to revenues, goes back to players and how much they're paying them. I mean, it's interesting. I thought David Martindale talking about £700-900 a week for a player.
Yeah.
And the referees get £900 for the game.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a pretty, you're going to get what you pay for generally. And if they're any better than that, they move. They move on. And I agree with, I think what you probably referred to is I watched a couple of English Premier League games last season. Not stellar ones either. Aston Villa, Crystal Palace was one of them. Liverpool, West Ham was another, obviously a bit higher because it's Liverpool. just watch it and you just go, my goodness. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, all I have to tell is like Crystal Palace, Edouard, who was, one time the best player in Scotland alongside McGregor probably at the time. Edouard wasn't getting a game for Crystal Palace.
Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, we were talking about it this morning at Fir Park at the press conference, Ruffy. The last time I was watching Motherwell, I think, just before Kettlewell got the job, they're playing against St Johnstone. It was one of the worst games I've ever seen. They couldn't string 3 passes, Motherwell.
Yeah, well, you that's all about confidence. That's when you're down there and you're not winning games and you're going out of a park, onto the park, and you're like, God, what's going to happen today? Are we going to get a wee break here and there? And they did get a wee break. I can't remember what game it was. Was it hit the post and it came back to somebody, the Motherwell player, and he scored it. And
that was against Hearts,
and he said, look, we weren't getting any breaks. In the last 4 or 5 games. It just shows you if you get a wee break, it turns your season. And football's all about winning games and confidence.
Okay, are you confident? Can you win our competition? Here's how you do it.
We have another superb competition here at PLZ Soccer. You can win one of our very own Maestro tops from the PLZ Soccer shop, along with a poster of Celtic legend Danny McGrain or Rangers legend Davy Cooper. All you have to do is answer this simple question: which year did Scotland last qualify for a World Cup? Post your answer in the comment section below, and when we pick our winner, we'll contact you to find out which poster you would like and which colour of Maestro top you would like to wear. And don't forget to double your chances of winning. Hit the like and hit the subscribe button and join us on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with the competition. Of course, Ruffy, you're well aware of it. Danny McGrain, Davy Cooper. We're watching football in those times when there was great players about. You could actually, whether they were playing down south in England, you still had great players up here playing.
Yeah, Ruffy brought in that sheet the other day there, the team selected to go to, I think it was 1971.
Petodra, we played Belgium,
yeah. Some names on that team sheet you brought in.
There's about, and you talk about world class, I think there's a 5 players, 6 players there you could say they were world class. They could play for any team on that list. The Dalglishes, the Jardins, the McGrains, the Bremners, Davy Hay. Oh, come on.
Yeah, Joe Jordan played in Italy as well.
Joe Jordan's career was Manchester United, Leeds United, when Leeds United were a team, and AC Milan. You don't play for those 3 teams if you're a duck egg.
Absolutely.
Jordan was a terrific player.
Yeah.
Scored in 3 World Cups, didn't he?
Yep, absolutely. Sorry to sound as if we were harping back to great days there, but it's always nice to mention some of the players that you see, and if you're lucky, sometimes you actually, when you're at a game, and I can remember it clearly at Ibrox when Rangers were playing Lyon, and everybody was talking, they were saying, listen, there's a young boy here playing for Lyon, blisteringly fast, great skill, scores goals for fun, he is unbelievably dangerous. And I thought, oh well, okay, let's see what the hype's about. And Karim Benzema did not disappoint. I have to say, he was phenomenal.
Absolutely phenomenal. And his answer to Lyon's answer to the quiz question, obviously, and we were in Stade Garland for the first leg. And
he just played well that night.
Won 3-0. I mean, terrific performance. Alan Hutton was almost unplayable in the wing. Rangers were, well, that was the season they ended up in the UEFA Cup final.
So it was good to see. Sometimes you're lucky you get to see somebody at the start of their career, and you see them develop and then go on. I can remember Ruffy being at Hampden looking at a young boy strutting his stuff for Croatia, and I thought, oh, he'd be great in Scottish football, until the Croatian journalist said, yes, everybody in Europe's chasing Modric. And then whatever happened to him, Ruffy?
I remember at Hampden standing beside a wee guy, and I said, you're too wee to be playing football. Maradona.
Yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing is, Maradona looked at him and he's, I can't speak any English, and I'm sure you're not speaking it either. So, with that in mind, the answer was Lyon to our quiz. Great to chat to Hugh. We'll be back with us in a couple of weeks. Enjoy Disney World. I mean, that's absolutely fantastic, Hugh. Your first time?
First time, yes. I'm thinking about taking the grandkids as well. That's
don't ruin it for yourself. Just go on the ride on your own, you know. You'll feel a bit uneasy on the roller coaster on your own, but then eventually you'll get used to it.
Alan's been talking today about roller coasters, so I won't get caught underneath one.
Peter Pan, you've got to go on the Peter Pan ride.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Have a great time. We'll have Hugh back in a couple of weeks, and of course you can always catch up on his Saturday Daily Mail column, which is always well worth a read. There you are, Hugh, as per the terms of his contract. Always nice to mention it from Hugh, from Ruffy and myself. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you can, and there's still time to win the competition. Tomorrow, myself, Ruffy and Tam McManus will be on the show. Hopefully you can join us then.